Here are the top 3 reasons why your aunt posts such weird things on your Facebook timeline.
About to go on the internet without getting stupid.
Okay, so if you're anything like me, you've spent a lot more time on the internet lately. It seems to be the only thing we can do in the middle of a pandemic is go on Netflix and maybe doom scroll through different articles on our phones. On many social media platforms, especially Facebook, it seems like people are sharing crazier and crazier things. It's not being shared by a stranger, it's being shared by somebody I know, somebody I love, somebody I trust. And they're putting out content that just feels like the wildest thing you can possibly imagine. I noticed people sharing wilder conspiracies and unproven facts and bad data. And I started to feel resentful. But then I saw this quote that said, "Be curious, not judgmental." And so I set out to understand why people would share content like this. I wanted to understand, what do they get out of it? What is motivating them? Why is this so compelling to them? And I found 3 main reasons why your aunt, and maybe mine too, share crazy things on the internet.
Number 1, they are looking for simplicity.
In 1849, a guy named Samuel Rowbowtham decided that he wanted to prove that the earth was flat. And he did this by sending a boat down a channel in England. This was called his famous Bedford Level experiment. His theory was that if he sent this boat down the channel and the earth was round, the boat would disappear over the horizon, and after about 20 miles, he wouldn't be able to see it anymore. But of course, he sent the boat down the channel, and even at the 20-mile marker, he could still see the boat. And so he felt like this proved that the earth was flat rather than round. Now, he got it wrong. That isn't how the science works. What he didn't account for was the fact that light bends due to our atmosphere. And he wasn't accommodating that information into his calculations. But the reason why he stood by his flat earth theory was something he called the zetetic method. He felt that through observation and through his 5 natural senses alone, he could figure out the truth about the universe. He felt like nature would reveal itself to him through his own instincts, his own senses of how the world really worked. But of course, that isn't how the world really works. Life is complicated. The universe is complicated. And lots of times, what's actually going on goes against our intuitive sense of how things work. Oftentimes, our instincts are wrong. And we use the scientific method to check ourselves and to check our instincts, to maybe find out some information that we wouldn't notice or know if we just relied on our own natural sense of the world. But a lot of people who share crazy content online, they're looking for that simplicity back. Some people share crazy things about reality because they don't actually want to know the truth. They just want a sense of control back. So Samuel Rowbowtham conducts this experiment to make things simpler. But in our lives, the people who share crazy content online aren't proposing new theories about how the world works. Most of them are relying on the simplicity of doubt and motivated skepticism. What they're not saying is, this is how the world actually works. What they're saying is, you've been lied to, and the complicated, nuanced thing that's happening is actually not right. Kind of like the person who doesn't like learning new board games because they hate the feeling of being unfamiliar with the rules. And they don't actually want to learn because they don't want to lose. They're presenting just enough of a margin to give them permission to doubt. And doubt is perhaps the simplest space to be in of all. When you see something that you think is crazy, the first question is not, how can this person believe this crazy thing? The better question is, how does this crazy thing make their life feel simpler?
Let's start at the beginning like Dad did with us, so Andrew and Lisa will be able to persuade their parents about the internet.
The second reason why people share crazy things on the internet is they are looking for
Safety.
Specifically moral safety. Jonathan Haidt writes that humans are 90% chimp and 10% bee. And what he means by that is our brains are wired for tribal connection. We're looking for groups to belong to. And the internet is like meth for the tribal part of our brain. What it does is it helps us find people who agree with us, but it also dissolves all of the clear connections that we used to use to identify who is in which tribe. The drive that makes us form a tribe also makes us want to protect the hive. There are no orthodoxies anymore. Nobody has to hold to any opinion for longer than 30 seconds, but everybody can find one another and feel safe with the people they agree with. So this moral instinct, this 10% bee part of our brain, leads us to do this really weird thing. What I've learned is that when bees sense danger, they do a special kind of dance and they vibrate in a particular way. And they'll even go further and they'll headbutt other bees. And what they're doing is they're trying to send a stop signal that lets other bees know, hey, there's danger here, or the nearby hive is in danger. So sometimes when you read or see something online that somebody's sharing and it feels inflammatory, it feels offensive, it feels like it just gets right up in your face. What's really going on is their bee brain is telling them, hey, we're in danger, and I need to headbutt other people to let them know that they are also in danger. In your brain and in mine, being right and wrong isn't just measured by the facts of the matter. Being right and wrong is measured by whether or not we are in or out of the group. Even though their tribe isn't clear, and even though they might not admit to themselves that they're thinking in a tribal way, they want to warn the people that they care about and the people they know that something is going wrong and that they're the only ones who see it. So when you see someone share something that's inflammatory and offensive, when it feels like somebody else is headbutting you, that's them trying to tell you that they think you're in danger. It's a moral panic. It's like all of those Puritans during Prohibition. It's like all those parents who complained after Janet Jackson's Super Bowl performance. It's like the dad on Footloose that doesn't want the kids to dance. What you're hearing is you're hearing the cry of a person who is willing to turn to something crazy and unprovable simply to headbutt the rest of the world into attention. I feel unsafe. I feel like the tribe is vulnerable. I feel like the hive is under attack. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean you have to agree with what they're saying, but it does help us understand what's really going on.
The internet gave us a whole world of exciting new possibilities. So I guess this is a story of how it changed our lives.
Number 3, they have a dependency, like a craving for honey.
The third reason why people share crazy things on the internet is dependency. I call this the infinite M.A.S.H effect. In the novel Infinite Jest, a character named Steeply tells the story about how his own father got addicted to watching the television show M.A.S.H. He becomes convinced there's some kind of hidden code in the television show that has significance for the end of the world, and then he even loses his job and destroys his family over this show while refusing to quit watching his favorite entertainment. Another character named M.A.S.H tells Steeply that his father's obsession must have killed him. But Steeply says it had the opposite effect. The pathologist said it was amazing he'd lasted this long. M.A.S.H shrugged. The obsessed frequently endure. You see, in our search for meaning, what we end up doing is we end up finding meaning wherever we look for it. Our brains are so devoted to the quest for meaning that even if we find something that's wrong or inconclusive, because we've invested time and energy into it, we become convinced that there has to be something there even when there isn't. We're all hardwired for meaning. When we find meaning, even in trivial or incorrect things, it gives us purpose and it helps sustain our lives. And the craziest part about this struggle for meaning is that it's an infinite feedback loop. The more time we invest in reading and so-called research, the more meaning we feel it must have. How could we even consider anything else? To admit we might be wrong, to admit that we made something out of nothing, that thought destroys the significance of all our searching. This is the infinite M.A.S.H effect. Wherever we look for meaning, we will find it, even if that meaning is untrue or found in insignificant places. Douglas Rushkoff writes about this, and writes about how we need to start treating people who are sharing this kind of content as though they are addicted to something. What are they addicted to? They're addicted to staying online and reading and scrolling until they get that little dopamine rush that comes from connecting one dot to another. It's delightful, it makes temporary sense, and then if they post the idea, it gets a few hits and likes and comments from others, and ding ding, squirt squirt, another hit of dopamine, and another, and another. If you challenge the narrative or try to bring them back to sense, then you are undermining not just the story or the politics or the ideology, but their justification for staying up all night trying to make connections. If, on the other hand, we are genuinely threatened by Soros, Hillary, Fauci, and the deep state, then there is ample justification for sacrificing sleep, friends, work, and one's mental health to the greater cause. This also explains the belligerence with which those promoting anti-stories defend themselves. They don't just defend their narratives, they defend their right to research, assemble, believe, and spread them. Your intervention becomes grist for the mill, part of the conspiracy, and the fuel for the addictive cycle.
Now that I've gotten on the internet, I'd rather be on my computer than doing just about anything.
So, what can we do about this? If people are addicted to a sense of safety and a sense of simplicity, then how do we deal with the fact that misinformation really harms people, and sometimes, at the very least, these people are harming their closest relationships? I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think it's going to be a simple or easy fix. But I do think it has something to do with being patient. I do think it has something to do with being humble. I think it has something to do with not overwhelming people with complexity or trying to prove them wrong, or forming a new tribe to shut down their old tribe. I think it has something to do with earning the right to be heard, to be trusted, so that we can help people unpack and navigate these complex things. I think what we really need digital contemplatives. We need people who are willing to slow down and think and become aware of their bias and their tribal loyalties and engage with people in a more generous and compassionate way. We can't keep waiting around for an algorithm to fix this. We can't keep hoping that Mark Zuckerberg will save us. All he wanted to do was rate how hot women were on his college campus. The dude doesn't have the skills to solve these kinds of problems, no matter how wealthy he is. What we need is people who don't just share a new kind of content. We need people who think in a brand new way. My hope is that if you join me on this adventure, we might discover new ways of helping people, helping ourselves navigate these incredibly complex issues. So join me if you want to make things slightly more peaceful online. I don't think I'm smarter than you are. I'm just trying to make the internet a little less stupid.